As far back as I can remember, I was always taught that my country is the best country in the world. It had almost become a belief that living in this country was a great privilege. Because everyone, our parents, our teachers, our television, have told us that our country is a paradise compared to the outside world, teaching me that our leader is our God. Like most families at the time, I grew up praising our leader. We knew little about the outside world. In all my childhood, this was the only thing I knew and was taught in school, until I was 12 years old. At that time, I left school because of my family's income and worked at my mother's small barber shop, our only source of income. After returning from the army, my father fell ill and could not find a job after another great famine. That's why Malimo's situation fell apart. Our salon had fewer customers and we became poorer. We could hardly afford to buy food and pay for it. Unlike Milman, we had to get help from others, but we did not know how it was possible to help us, even if they called us, despite all the rules. Winter was fast approaching, and now without enough food and fuel for the heat, it seemed like my last winter with my father. When the public became aware of our situation, he decided to take this risk and help his brother's family so that we could get through the winter. He was a farmer. He decided to hide some rice and send it to our house so that we could spend the next 3 months with it. But he was arrested just before spring. After a few days, we received a letter that said that the public would be punished in front of the public. This is common in my country and people have to watch it. But I always believed that they were bad people who deserved to be punished, and now, for the first time in my life, I question my country. They did this by making it public just because he wanted to help his family. After that, I was told that your family was very lucky, that often the relatives of the perpetrators were often taken to prison or camp. I told myself that our family could not survive John's poverty and hunger anyway, so they did not bother to send us to these places. After what they did to my uncle, my faith in my country disappeared. I was shocked and disgusted. Eventually I started asking questions, but instead of answering, my parents just said in horror, "Finish it, or our fate will be like an uncle's." I left school at the age of 12 and I knew very little. I could not be silent, I had to understand the truth. Is my country really the best country in the world? Finally, after not being able to stop me from asking questions, on my 17th birthday, my father gave me an old box full of history books, family photos, and DVDs of South Korean foreign films. My eyes were opened. For the first time I saw freedom, life and happiness outside the borders of my country. I could not believe it. I knew they might not be real, but it was very strange and impossible for anyone in my country to make them. People in the Korean movie spoke, but it was different. They spoke much more easily and enthusiastically. From that moment on, I realized that I had to leave that country so that I might be able to help my family live a better life. I was still very young and inexperienced. I asked my father to help me. I expected him to reject my request, but he supported me and told me, "Everything is lost here. I want you to go and build a better life for yourself somewhere else." After that, we became very close. But my mother said it was too dangerous and told stories from her old clients who had tried to escape but failed and were arrested. He said the men had been subjected to horrific torture for months in prison and had been under secret police surveillance since their release. But what choices did we have? Either poverty eradicates us or the government? If I could live somewhere else, then my parents could live with the things they had, and maybe one day I would set them free. 4 months later, I left my country in a small boat floating on the Chumen River and headed for China. In the dark and with other people who were scared like me. The thought that there was no going back made me cry. A few weeks ago I could not eat much due to excitement, but now I was tired and crying alone. I was reviewing my memories with my parents and our hard lives. If I could escape, maybe I could help them find a better life abroad. But if I was arrested, neither of us would have a chance to live. Before I left my parents, the last thing I told them was, "I'll see you soon." When I arrived in China, everything was like a dream of the future. We were taught that hell is like this, yet I was attracted to it. Buildings, lights, people, my tongue was tied. But I was not a tourist, I was a fugitive and I had to hide from the police, border guards and spies from my own country. My goal was to go to South Korea, but it might take months or years for some refugees. So I had to find a place to live, work and hide. Eventually I went to a safer village on the outskirts of the city to work on a farm and pretended to be from South Korea and a few years older. I wrote my memoirs at night. I always thought of my parents, and when I looked at the picture I had of them, I remembered that I had promised to see them soon. I stayed in that village for almost 2 years and saved the little money I was given to work on the farm until I had enough money to go to South Korea. Before leaving, I thanked the farmer and his wife for letting me stay in one of their rooms, and told them that you helped me more than you thought, and I left. I was in danger of being arrested again and returned to my country. Over the next few weeks, I became delusional and thought I was being chased again, always feeling scared. Unconsciously my tears flowed. I cried because I was alone, because I was scared and I had no one. But I finally arrived in Seoul, South Korea, and although my trip was still a long way off, I felt calm for the first time since my uncle sent us food for the winter. I became a refugee and that means much more security than before. In addition to finding work, I began to study things that I had never been taught. A year later, after saving enough money to flee to Seoul, my father joined me, and my mother told those who asked that she had died. My mother still lives in my country, and we are trying to get her to join us, and to fulfill the promise I made to see her soon. I can't reveal my real name, but I like my name to be Omid because I think this is what my story wants to show.